You know what? It feels like only yesterday we all started to enjoy this retro first-person shooter revival. The boomer shooter renaissance, Dusk, Medieval, and Ion Fury. The big three that brought gaming back from the brink. Hell, I even started this channel because of them. I bought and downloaded all three of them and held off on playing them for 2 years until I could be sure I was going to stream them on Twitch. I used to only stream on Twitch back then, and we did do that. But my dear viewer, I think that those glorious years may be in the rearview mirror. Today, I'm going to be giving you my final review of Phantom Fury, created by Slipgate Ironworks and 3D Realms. I made a video a while ago about my first impressions of Phantom Fury. I played roughly 3 hours of the game, and I gave my very honest first impressions of it. However, unfortunately, some things have changed since then. I'm going to do my best to not be too unfair in this review, mostly because I don't think Phantom Fury was fairly created. Everything from internal politics and turmoil, from what I hear, to layoffs and developer issues. This all accumulates into a product where, while complete, is just a bit, well, we'll get into it.
Looks like the explosion caused more damage than expected.
Don't forget, if you like what you see and you want to see more, hit subscribe to see more. Alright friends, I'm going to rip the band-aid off early, and I will get to some of the things I think Phantom Fury does right. But the reality of the matter is that it took me a while to finish Phantom Fury. Not because it is necessarily a long game, and I don't think it's necessarily too long. And not because there were an immense amount of bugs, there really weren't that many at all. I think the biggest sin of Phantom Fury, unfortunately, in my 14 plus hours of gameplay, is that Phantom Fury suffers from the worst problem a game can ever have, which is that, frankly, it just became boring. In my first video, I spoke about how much fun I was having in the first 3 hours of the game, and truthfully, that is true. I went in, I played the game, it was great, engaging with the environment, platform, gunplay, the enemies, some of the story. It was really working for me. However, it seems to taper off and kind of fall off after that point. You'll notice I'll speak a lot about how there was an attempt, but they did not follow through, or they couldn't follow through, whatever the reason. But there was a lot of attempts of interesting ideas and gameplay mechanic or environmental scenarios, and it just didn't hit the mark almost every single time.
You'll have to find a key card to get through.
The car segment, the helicopter segment, and the submarine segments are all great ideas. You can see a lot of the inspiration comes from games like Half-Life 2. I mean, it's quite obvious that it does. But good God, as a road movie game, or a game inspired by road movies, cars should be the most exciting and engaging part of your game. But this just felt tedious, like go from one side of the map to the other. And yes, very pretty, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later, but my God, it was boring, and it just felt lame. And this, sure, might have not been helped by the fact that the atmospheric noises were far louder than the music, if the music played at all. At first I thought this was more dynamic music. As I played a little bit later, I realized that maybe it's not dynamic music, maybe it's not atmospheric music, maybe it just is that the music is not there at all. And I think that's where they missed the mark again, where they had every opportunity to provide, call it battle music, atmospheric music, change the flow a little bit when we did have awesome encounters like the car segments or the later helicopter segment, and we'll talk about that now. But they just didn't for some reason. You tend to have a lot more environmental sounds and voice audios and fights and whatever, but nothing music, nothing to keep your heart pumping, to make you interested in what you're doing. And it felt like a chore. The helicopter segment, for one, is on rails. So you're not even controlling your helicopter, you're just kind of pointing the cursor where you want to shoot your unlimited machine gun ammo or your unlimited missiles at other helicopters, which I don't think would actually hurt you anyway. So, and then the submarine segment in itself, I consider a massive miss again, because the weird HUD that you get in the submarine takes up half the screen. It's too dark to really see where you're going. The sonar doesn't really direct you in any particular direction. And honestly, because of those weird little brain things, which are very cool for the record, they just hang around swimming and they kill you really quickly. So you tend to cheese everything from a distance, which made the entire segment boring and tedious and laborious rather than exciting and stressful. pressure under the waves. It makes a lot of sense. I was so thankful to get out of the submarine just to shore so I could move again. A lot of amazing ideas. And again, some I'm pretty confident were inspired by Half-Life. And I think that's a great attempt. Take these ideas, go for it, see what you can do with it. I want to be fair here. I don't think it's okay that I sit here and lambaste this game for great attempts that they didn't achieve. I'm trying to tell you that I think those poor devs or whoever made these decisions, I'm going to be sympathetic. I think they tried their best. I think the ideas were there. And at the end, it felt like they had to just make it work and ship rather than make it fun and engaging. And I think there is no fun zone for the first 3 hours, which is just sad and unfortunate. Now, sure, you're going to say, oh, Hyacsho, but you know, the environments are beautiful and that's very cool. And that's why it's a road movie game and you can see the road and jump off and on. And yeah, but it's boring, man. There's nothing to do. Even the enemies are the same generic guys over and over and over. And then the camera is too far out, so you kind of again seeing them from a distance. Man, you know, it's just, what? This is where you had to get it right. If you're a road movie game inspired by that kind of movie genre and so forth, that's what you got to get right. I was hoping for, and I mentioned that in my first impressions, I was hoping it would ramp up to, you know, a Mad Max level of engagement, but just in FPS form. You know, that would be interesting to see, but I never got that. Right, if you're still here after all of that shit, now you're going to listen to the rest. I'm a little bit in 2 minds talking about the guns. I mentioned the guns in my first impressions video before, and I made an effort to keep using the Revolver Loverboy gun, Shelly's iconic gun. And honestly, yeah, that opinion hasn't changed. It's still one of the worst renditions of that gun, which is a shame. Yeah, the argument could be made that the developers realized that most people, like myself, were using the gun on Ion Fury and basically cheesing the entire game with its lock-on effect. Sure, but it just felt unfinished. Again, unpolished, where the lock-on effect, you had to rather shake the camera around, which I did, to try and make it lock onto enemy targets, and that was a bit unfortunate, and I didn't feel like it was powerful in my hands, but it wasn't, you know, as engaging to use. A little further than that, I'm not going to talk about every single individual gun, that's not why you're here, but what I will say, there were a few interesting guns regardless. Sure, we have the classic guns like your handgun, your revolver, shotgun, and all of them have their own interesting quirks and gameplay mechanics that you can utilize throughout the game. However, there was an unfortunate circumstance where I felt Phantom Fury didn't really give you the opportunity to try the new guns. Yes, I'm not talking about ammo, that's fine. There's more than enough ammo throughout the game. Totally chilled. But there weren't opportunities to use your guns. There wasn't a dance of fun to switch your guns around, try different things. I eventually started reverting to using only my revolver or the handgun and the shotgun, which again is a little unfortunate because later you get a gun called the flak gun or the mother flacker. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, and that is really cool, but it didn't really make sense at long range, so you have to get up really close, and by the time you're there, it turns them into a red mist, and that's really fun. But then it takes forever to reload, and might as well just use the shotgun, because by the time you get that far in the game, my god, you just want to get through the fucking thing, rather than, you know, even start to experiment with things. Eventually, in the final, I think, 2 hours of the game, I had so much ammo on every gun, I just started using them willy-nilly, just to get through. That's what was a massive letdown. Another interesting gun is the foam launcher. You'll pick this up throughout the game. Instead of a flamethrower, yeah, fire thrower, instead of a flamethrower, I think this was a nice twist. I really, really do. I love the fact that you can shoot electric foam and trap or stick down your enemies. It creates this always on damage effect on your enemies and your bosses. Really cool idea, but again, the foam thrower I found myself using less and less because it is painfully inaccurate, and because sometimes you need to bunker down and hide behind cover, you can't really go out in the open and throw foam all over the place because you're going to get hit, and really badly very quickly because the difficulty spikes and they start flooding you. Again, the balance is just off with this kind of gun. I think they could have done better if they just shot it in a stream. That might be interesting. And I try to think of different scenarios that you could use the foam thrower and how you could make that work. And I think the biggest win of the foam thrower is horde management when there's a lot of guys in a particular place, fine, or a boss. That's fine too. But again, there are not a lot of opportunities to use this kind of gun, which is a shame because I think it's a really good idea. Yes, you also get a bunch of classic guns like the ion bow. And can I just say, Yes, this was a great version of the Ion Bow. It did everything right, and I think it improved on the Ion Fury Ion Bow, where you're able to charge up the bow and shoot a whole plethora of bolts, fire bolts, red bolts, energy bolts, whatever you have. And the accuracy is there. It acts like a quasi sniper rifle in some cases. Really fun gun. I loved using it. I loved referring to it instead of the damn shotgun all the time. Ion Bow though, 10 out of 10. That was quite excellent.
He's about to find out just how wrong he is.
So yeah, like I say, those are a few callouts of the guns that I really did like. Everything else is there: handgun, shotgun, machine gun, blah 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 blah. I don't care. They're boring. I don't even the models of most of the guns, besides those iconic ones, and you get the Magnum a little bit later. That was quite fun. But you only use the Magnum for like the last level, so you don't even get to use it so much. So I don't even know why it's there. Is it nostalgia? Anyway.
Best of luck. Not that you'll need it.
So yeah, you get a lot of ammo, you get a lot of guns, which a lot of them can be quite fun. The ideas are there. The ideas are there. So give us the opportunity to use the guns. Environments also don't always give you the opportunity to use every kind of gun. Not that you should. I get that. Environments need different kinds of weapons to be executed on. That's totally okay. Then eventually you start just default to whatever gun you happen to have in hand, rather than having maybe surgical ideas around a scenario and using a particular kind of gun. I think, again, that feels like the ideas were there. The intent was there. They wanted to create interesting gunplay to engage with the environments, and then they didn't balance anything. And then they threw it all together, gave us a shit ton of ammo. I mean, it used to just be like a few little ammo drops as you move throughout the level, and then by the end of the game, you were just basically half a section is dedicated to ammo for all the guns that you have. So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate in my opinion. I didn't really feel that I was able to experiment with every single gun as much as I would have liked, and I feel that's a real shame because there was a lot of potential there. And it really doesn't help the fact that there was a very limited enemy roster. We can look at, I don't like to do this too much, but we can use other examples in other games. Sure, I'm going to use Doom again. I know people don't like it so much, but looking at games like Doom, for example, where we had such a huge variety of enemies to use different kinds of guns on. You know, that makes a lot of sense. So why not have slow tanking enemies to use the foam cannon on? Sure, we have turrets that we use the heat seeker on. Heat seeker? It's like a heat seeker. Forget the name now. It's basically the rocket launcher. We can use them on turrets, and that's okay. But that's kind of it. And then on bosses, so you don't really have an opportunity to use that variety either. And so the list goes on. I feel that there was an opportunity to do a bit more, or at least the idea to want to do more, and then just not carry it out in the long term of the game, which is, like I said, gets boring the longer you play it. It is, I felt like I was an autopilot. I didn't feel like I was having fun. I felt like that this was a chore. And it's so unfortunate that it was. Now, one thing I did want to pay attention to in this entire review was the glitches and the bugs that I found. I'm very happy to say that there weren't very many, if at all ever. I think any glitch or bug that I found or may have stumbled across was so unnoticeable I didn't even take note of it. This may be again because I was just autopiloting it to try and get it finished, but I didn't find anything. The only glitches and bugs I have ever found playing Phantom Fury was the two that I mentioned in my first impressions video, which when I went back and I played the game, I replayed the game from level 1 again. I didn't pick it up from where I left it in the impressions. I replayed it. I gave the developers a chance to send an update and everything, and I'm glad to say I think they have. I think that any bugs that may have been there probably gone by now, and by the time of this review goes out, probably even more still, if there were any that I didn't notice. So if that was something you were concerned about, happy to say that there isn't any of those concerns. No, it's not all gloom and doom, guys. I really did have moments in the game where I had an enjoyable time. There were battles that I enjoyed, there was opportunities where I found myself smiling, but they were just so few and far between. I've struggled to put them all here in this review because they were so massively overshadowed by what I feel, unfortunately, as much as I try to look for it, is a lack of commitment to ideas and concepts. Yes, the environments are very pretty when you actually sit back and have a look at it. It's quite a world that we have on order for us. The Bombshell universe, I think, is pretty epic. I think the whole universe that we have the opportunity to explore is a lot of fun. I want to go back. I intend to go back. The narrative itself, and this is a very important part for me that really shines through. Again, a bit of a letdown, but we'll get there. It shines through the story, right? So the story itself at first is frankly very dry, which is okay. I mean, it's a shooter game. You don't need an amazing story. I do feel that the writers had something to play with. It's sort of like Phantom Fury. Again, I'm not 100% sure if it is a prequel or a sequel to Ion or Tempest Rising. That is, I'm going to have to get into the lore of that. But there is Tempest, that little plant, alien plant that grows in the RPG role-playing game, RTS game, Tempest Rising, which is very cool. And I loved how they interwove that Tempest concept, the Tempest Dynasty, and that entire story into the Phantom Fury game. However, that was there for a minute, and that was kind of what we were getting towards. Then that now connects to the Demon Core, this powerful energy source, this former nuclear core that we were going to be using, or well, we had to stop the bad guys from using. There's a twist, and that's all fine. And then it's become something about Nazis and a master race, and that's essentially what that was going for. And maybe I don't know the lore, maybe the Tempest Dynasty were about that, and that's fine, but no one told me. So I don't really know what happened there, so the story felt a little disjointed. One of the things that I felt was a brilliant idea was the concept of Shelley's personal life and backstory. There is a glimmer of that in this game, where we're able to see Shelley engaging in her real life in a bit of a cutscene right at the end. And I'm like, that's lovely. That you're trying to build an emotional connection with me and this character. I love that. But we're 13 hours into the game. Maybe we should have established this already, which we didn't. So it felt very off. Again, why? Fuck, please. How many times am I saying again in this review? Tell me in the fucking comments, because I'm sick of myself now too. But seriously. So there was a great idea. Shelley's story about her life, how she basically ruined it, or to some extent how she fucked up as a bomb expert somehow in that respect. Again, that only came out much later. It's sort of alluded to, but then they doubled down on it later, which is totally fine, but it just feels light and then lots and then nothing. So yeah, the story I feel is one of the virtues of this game, but unfortunately, like I said in the beginning of this video, the common thread is poor execution. So that is sad. Fuck. Why am I so sad? I'm sad because I want to love this game. I want to love this game. Phantom Fury should have been one of the games this year, one of the pinnacles. I know I made the comparison between Ion Fury and this now Phantom Fury in my first impressions review, but everyone would, because that is the last time we saw Shelley in the wild. Now we're seeing her again in this way is unfortunate. It doesn't do her character justice, and it doesn't do the Bombshell universe justice. My heart breaks the fact that maybe the developers or whatever happened over there at 3D Realms and Slipgate and Ironworks, I'm sure there was the intent. I'm sure the idea was there to expand on the story, get balancing between enemy variety and weapon ideas and concepts, but it just felt either rushed in some places or crammed in other places in the case of the guns. I do want to call it out though that the boss fights, for example, were pretty cool when they were. Overall, the boss fights were pretty cool. You get to fight mechs. Now, why couldn't we pilot a mech? Just let us pilot a mech. Oh man. But you let us pilot a helicopter that we couldn't even ride properly. Okay. Fine, it's alright. Some of the bosses were pretty cool. The mech fight bosses in particular were awesome. I really enjoyed that, and they were a bit more challenging. I think there was a lot more effort made into those instances than the other mini boss fights that I found. Now, if this rambling review has told you anything, it's probably not painting the best picture of Phantom Fury. Yes, it has its elements where I'm quite a large fan of. Shelly is one of my favorite all-time characters. She is my favorite character, even more than Doom Guy. I liked Iron Fury. Iron Fury is my favorite game, more than Doom. I've said this before, but I just don't think Shelly was treated very fairly here. I don't think the Bombshell universe was given to us in the best way it could have been done. I think there were a lot of amazing ideas that weren't executed on correctly. This is by no means a broken game. This is not a broken game. You can pick this up right now. You can go and play it. And if you're a fan of the universe like I am, I'd buy it because I want to expand on the universe and I want to know that story and I want to see what's going on. But please bear in mind that if you're anyone like me that had those expectations going in of maybe not the best game in the world, but a fun game at the very least, you might be a little bit disappointed like I am. Unfortunately, in this review, I can't confidently recommend Phantom Fury for everybody. I can only recommend it to fans like myself that want to get another taste of the Bombshell universe, see what Shelly is up to, see where she might be going next, and it looks like she will be going somewhere. Well, I can only hope. And sure, fine. But for everybody else, I don't think you should be spending your money on this right away. I think you might need to wait for a little bit, maybe a Steam special, maybe a bundle offer or whatever the case may be. But straight up, and it does break my heart, I'm really sorry, guys. If any of the developers are, or whoever you are, if anyone are participating in the creation of this game, I'm sorry that maybe this didn't come out the way you wanted. And I'm not anybody important on the internet. I'm really not. I'm just a fan. I hope that you guys get another chance to make the game you always wanted to, whether, and I know, shame, a lot of you are not even there anymore. So, and that's its own fuck up, isn't it? I left Phantom Fury bored. I left it sad. I left it tired. And honestly, at this stage, recording this video, I just want to go and play Sulaco. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching my review of Phantom Fury. I really appreciate it. If you got this far in the video, please don't forget to hit subscribe if you like what I do and you want to see more. And please join me on the weekends where I live stream right here on YouTube and Twitch. We've also opened up YouTube memberships now and Twitch subscriptions. I have closed my Patreon down, unfortunately, or at least for now. That's a whole different story. But if you'd like to support me financially, you can always become a YouTube member right now, or you can come and say hi on Twitch sometime. That'd be great too. For those of you that already support me here or originally did on Patreon, I think your names will be up very soon. Thank you so much for the support. You guys are absolute legends, and I couldn't do this without you. If you're interested in seeing some of the other games I talk about, I have a Steam curator page called Nukeage Gaming, which I've linked in the description. You can go and check it out. Some of my favorites are there. But most importantly, thank you for watching, everybody. Till next time, please take care. Rip and tear. Cheers. Right, so I think we got the audio right, even though everyone is noisy in Dubai. It sucks, but it is what it is. It's hot in this room. It gets up to 47. I don't have the AC on. I've just realized the AC is off. That review sucked. I don't want to talk badly about games, but my god, I can't not now make this video after the impressions review. I suppose maybe I could have. But I promised, didn't I? I really hope that the guys can land on their feet. It's a shame. It's really a shame. So much potential. So much potential.